Hello everyone, my name is Precious Iriaevho from Clickate Academy. It's been a while and it's nice to be back here with you again. In this tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how to create an analog wall clock using HTML, CSS and JavaScript. Analog wall clocks are the type that have the minute hand, the seconds hand and the hour hand, just like we used to have in our house back in the day before the advent of technological devices like our mobile phones and smartwatches. So without much ado, let's get to it. To begin, I expect that you have a computer. I believe you're watching me from a computer. And if you do, please find a place on your computer to create a folder. So I'm going to create this folder and I'm going to call mine analog clock. So mine is analog clock. I would add 001 to it because this is going to be a series of tutorials. So for identification purpose for me, I'm doing this. You can name yours anything. Then right click to open in Visual Studio Code or in your favorite editor. So show more options and open with code. So let's start. If you have anything disturbing you on your screen right now, you better take it off because we just began. So the first thing you do is on your left hand side, we're going to create three files. The first one is going to be our index.html. Then the next one is going to be our style.css. This is where we're going to put our CSS scripts, declarations, and property. And this is going to be the last one called script.js. And this is where we're going to put our JavaScript scripts. Okay, so let's get to it. Let's start with our index.html. If you are using Visual Studio Code, you can use the exclamation mark and tab and you will get what I have on my screen right now. If you've tried it and it's not working for you, please do well to pause this video right now and type everything that you have on my screen. I'm not going to share this code with you, so if you don't type with me, you are not going to get this to work on your computer. The next thing I want to do is let's create another meta tag. So I'm going to call this one name is equal to author. And who is the author? I am the author. So you can put your name here. So I'm going to say Precious Iriaevho Clickate Academy. For the title, let's change this to analog clock. Then we have to link our style sheet, the style.css file here. So to do that, we are going to create a link tag. So we say link, then the relationship is style sheet. I'm having problems with my double quotes. Then the link, that is the href. So where is it located? Is in the style.css file. It's not in any folder, so I don't need to go deep into any folder. Now the next thing we need to do is right at the bottom, just before our body tag, the closing body tag, let's also introduce our script tag. Okay, so I'm going to create a script tag. This is a self-closing tag, and the type is equal to text JavaScript. And the source src is also the script.js because we are not inside any folder. Scripts, we don't have them inside any folder. So that is closed, and as you can see, my document is ready, and I believe you are also at this stage with me. If you are here with me, then let's proceed. The first thing you would do, or we would do right now, is to create a new div. Okay, so I'll say div, and we're going to give this div a class called clock. So it's going to be called clock, class clock. Then inside of this div, we are going to create all of our clock numbers. So we're going to create 1 to 12 and every other thing we want inside of the clock, like the minute hand, the seconds hand, the hour hand, and also if you want to put a signature like you would see when we finish, and also the dots where the minute, the second, and the hour hands will be coming out from. So let's do that now. So we're going to create a div, and this div is going to have a class called number because it's going to take our numbers. So we want to call the class a number. Then inside of the div, let me drop this down. So this is going to be for number 1. Let's create a span. So a span tag, and inside of the span tag we say 1. This is number 1. And also in our div, let's create a new style variable. So in CSS there is something called variables. You create variables to access your files. So if you want to target some specific tags in your HTML, you can create a variable and you can use one variable to access every one of them. So we'll call this style is equal to, so the name of the variable is n / n, and this is for 1. So now I'm going to duplicate this in 12 places because we have 12 hands on our clock. So I could put this on one line. So using delete, I just want it to be on one line so that it will be easy for you to see. So now all I need to do is just to duplicate this. So I'll come down here. I need 11 more. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Then let's go back in and give them their numbers. So this next one will be number 2, and this is number 2, 3, 3. You can forward the video at this stage. I'm just trying to number them. I want to do everything in front of you so nothing is hidden. So you can see what I'm doing. I'm just putting the numbers. This is basic numerical counting from school back in the day. 7, 8. This is the boring part. 8, 9, 9, or 10. It's boring now, but when we finish, you'll be glad that you stayed through. 11, 12, 12. Good. Now we have our numbers. The next thing we want to do is also, let's create our hour hand, the minute hand, the second hand, the center dots, and the signature while we are still here, right? So I'm going to create a div, and this div is going to have a class called hour hand, and it's also going to have an ID because of JavaScript. We'll also call this our hand. And now I'm going to duplicate this div. We're not putting anything inside of the div. We're going to do that with CSS and JavaScript for the minute hand and the second hand. So let's change this. I'm going to change the second one to minute hand. Then the next one is our second hand. And also for the center dot, okay? So div, this is a shortcut. I'm going to call this center dot tab, okay? Then last, I want to create a signature. So I will say dot signature, and I want to have my name in there. You will see where this appears. So a BRO tag to create a break, then Clickate Academy. So if you've gotten to this stage, see, as you can see, I only have 38 lines of HTML. So you can save your file, and let's see how this looks in the browser. So I'm going to open up my browser now. Let's see what we have. So if I go into this file, you see we have the 3 files here. So let's open this in the browser. I'm going to do that now, double clicking on index.html. As you can see, look at what we have right now. Analog clock. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, so right now we have to change everything we have here with CSS. Okay, so let's proceed. I have an error here. My question mark, or sorry, my double quotes is at the missed rank place. So if I save this and go back to the browser, let's reload. Good, so we have 1 to 12, then what I typed, okay? So we're going to leave this page open and we'll go back to CSS. We'll come back when we do some changes to check if there are some effects. The next one is, let's go to our style. So we are done with the HTML. We can now go to style. Now it's time for us to create our styles. So the very first thing we need to do is to target the old document. To target the old document, you have to use this asterisk. And what are we doing here? Let's create some settings. So we say margin should be 0. I want to make the padding to be 0. Also box sizing. So box sizing, border box. So this is going to help us to remove any margin that the browser places for us. So if you look at the edge, there are some border and padding. You see, it's not touching the side of my screen. But if I reload now, you can see everything is out. So let's go border box. Then font family. So let's change the font family. So if you're using VS Studio Code, it's going to bring some options for you. I'm just going to go with Segui UI. Okay. So then the next thing we need to target is the body. So the body, the body is enclosing our clock. So we are targeting the body now. So for the body, what do we want? The first thing we want is, let's change the way it looks. But before we go, let's see how it looks on the browser now. So if I reload, see, we don't have a lot of changes. So let's go on. The first thing we want is, we want the display to be flex. So we're using Flexbox for this tutorial. So let's reload. No changes yet. Very soon our changes will take effect. Okay. So I did not save, sorry. So good, as you can see, the font size has changed and our file is touching the side of our screen. And as you can see, the font family has also changed too, okay? So let's proceed. For the body, display flex. Then where do we want the content? I want the content to be in the middle. So justify content. And I want this to be in the center. So this is how to center a div. I also want the items to be in the middle, okay? Align items in the center. The next thing I want is, I want a full height. So it should take the full height of our browser. So I will give it 100 VH. Then also a background color for our entire screen. And you can use any color you want. I'm just going to choose some simple colors. I'm using gray for this one. So let's see what we have in the browser after I save. And as you can see, we have a gray color and we have our items now in the middle of our screen, right? So let's go on. So if you are at this stage with me, then you are doing very fine. Congratulations. Let's go on. So back to the code. Let's target our clock. Remember the class clock we created here, this div. So we are targeting this div now called clock. So let's make some changes to it. The first thing we need to do is, let's give it a width of 800 pixels and the same height of 800 pixel. The reason for this is so we have a proportional size. So the same height, the same size is going to ensure that it looks good to the eyes. Then position relative, because we are going to position some items relative to this, so they will be absolute. Then background color for the clock. So this is the face of the clock, okay? So I will make this white. You will see what happens now. Then the border radius, this is what creates the clock circle. So if I say 50%, it's going to be a 50% radius on all sides. So it's going to give us a complete circle. Then the next thing is we are also going to use a display flex for the clock because we have some items inside of the clock. So display flex for our clock. And I'm also going to justify everything inside of the clock in the center. So justify content, center, and I also want to align all the items in the center. So I save this now and let's see what we have. So take note of my screen right now and I'm going to reload now. So when I reload, let's see what happens. And as you can see, we have our clock created now. This is the clock face, circular face, and we still have our numbers and everything in the middle. So let's change how this looks. So reload. If you are at this stage with me, then you are also doing very fine. Let's proceed. So now I want to attack the clock again, but in CSS we have what we call pseudo classes. So I'm going to use the pseudo class called before. So this is going to be content before the clock, but after the body, but it's invincible. So we can give it a content, but I'm going to use nothing. So it's going to be just empty double quotes. Then this width is going to be 825 pixel. Same thing for the height, 825 pixels. So I'm trying to create a border around the clock face. You're going to see it now. So position, we want to position it to the clock, so it's going to be absolute. Then border radius is going to be the same thing as the clock, 50%. Then the background, I'm going to use a linear gradient. I'm trying to use all this so that you get different ideas in CSS from this tutorial. So I'm going to use a linear gradient and it's going to be to the right. So to right, I want to use blue and purple. So the color is going to start from blue, then to the right, you have purple. Then let's create a box shadow. So this is going to create a shadow for our clock. So 0, 0, then 15 pixel, 15 pixel. Then we use the RGBA color. This is going to create a black shadow. So 0. So this is for black, 0, 0, and a opacity of 0.2 opacity. So this is 0.2 opacity. Then Z index is, we want to position this at the back of the clock. So Z index of -1. So the clock is going to be in front of it. So let's reload and see what we have here. I have an error here. So I'll save this. You can pause the video and ensure you have everything I have on my screen with yours. Then let's go back to our browser. Take note of how the browser looks now, and I'm going to reload. And as you can see, we now have a border around our clock. So this is what the before does, the clock before. So let's go back. The next thing we go to work on now are the numbers. So we have number 1 to 12. And remember, I gave them a class of number. So I'm going to use this number to target every one of them. Since it's a class, it's going to target every one of them. So number, and what do we do with our number? We want to transform them. So transform, then rotate them. So we are rotating them on their axis, calculating it at 30 degrees. Okay, multiplied by their variable. So we are multiplying it by 1, by 2, by 3, by 4. I hope you understand. So we have the variable. So we are calling the variable n. Then we are getting the value of each variable. So if you go to var n, that's 30 degrees. Var, so we are talking about this. N1, N2, N3. So these are 1, 2, 3. So it's going to multiply it by this value of 30 degrees. So you will see what happens when we achieve this. Position is going to be absolute. Then let's align the text to the center. So all the text should be in the center. So text align is going to do that for us. Inset at 20 pixels. Then font size. So how big do you want the font to be? I want mine to be at 60 pixels because my clock is going to be a very, very big one. I want the color black for my tests, for the clock test. Then I want a text shadow. So I want each numbers to have a shadow. And the shadows I want at 5 pixels, then I want a blue shadow. So let's see how this looks now. Sorry, looks like I've not saved. So let me save. Good. Then let's reload. I've saved now. And as you can see, we have them all, but they are all in one location. So we're going to change that now. So let's proceed. So now we have to target each number itself. So we're going to use span. So remember, this class was each for one of them. So we have number, 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 okay, for the div. But right now, I want to target the spans inside of the div. The span is holding the number. So right now, it's like I'm targeting each number. So let's go there. So it's going to be number span. And what do we want to do? I want to make the font to be bold. So font weight, bold. Then another transform. So this is what is going to send the numbers to their own respective location. So we're going to rotate them again. We're going to rotate them, but in the opposite direction. Okay, so let's calculate it. Minus 30 degree. And we'll multiply it again by the variable. Okay, then last but not the least, we want to display them as inline block. So they are not going to be on a line, but they are going to act like block level elements. Let's see what we have now. I always forget to save. Please don't always forget to save. Reload. So we are almost there. Let's go back to work again. So number span. So minus 30 degree, variable n. Okay, display inline block. Then also our center dots. So the center dots is what is going to hold our hands. So the first thing we want there is position, absolute for the center dot. The width should be 25 pixel. Same thing with the height, 25 pixels. Then we want a background color of purple. You can use any color you want. Then I want a border of 6 pixels, solid, and it should be blue. And I want a border radius of 50 pixels too. Okay, so let's see what we have on our screen now. So you see we have the dot on the screen right now. But first, let me see why our numbers are not spreading out properly. So let me see, let's check our HTML. So on our HTML, we have the figures right. Yes, that's correct. Then in our style sheet, transform, number span, transform. So you see, it's good that I'm making errors here so that you can see that there is nothing magical happening here. Display inline block. Okay. There are no magics. It's just pure code. Okay, we'll come back to that. But first, let me just proceed. And for our signature, so this guy, signature, let me copy it. I want to move it. So for the class signature, let's take it from the margin. Let's give it a margin bottom so it goes up. So 500 pixels. This is going to push it up. Font weight, I want it to be bold. Font size, 30 pixel. I want a padding of 3 pixel. So you see, CSS is beautiful. It makes everything come to life. So padding of 3 pixel. Then I also want a border of 2 pixel, which should be solid and black. Okay, so let's see what we have now. I always forget to save. So I'll reload this. Good. It's at the top now. So back to our number. Let's see what's up with our number. So position absolute, text align center, insect 20%, font size 60 pixels, color is black, and shadow is blue. Then the next thing is the transform, which is at minus 30 degree. Look at it. There's a problem here. So I have a closing bracket here, which is not supposed to be. So you can see, I'll take that out now and put it here. I put the bracket at the wrong place. So you can see that I'm not doing any magic. I just made an error there. So let's reload our page and see what we have. And good. Now we've created our clock face. So this is the clock face. Like, you know, your grandmother's clock, your father's clock, or the clock in your sitting room. So we have 1 to 12 now. Now the next thing for us is to create the clock hands. Okay, we have 3 hands to create. So let's create them. So the first thing we'll do is, let's target all of them. So this is the 3 hands, hour hand, minute hand, and second hand. Okay, I could just copy the hour hand. Oh, let's go. So I'm going to target them all. So I have hour hand. Let's target them all at first to give them a general style. Hour hand. Then the next one is minute. Sorry, second hand. Second hand. So that's for the 3 hands. The first thing we want to do is, let's create a variable and let's call it 0. We're going to use this variable later. You'll see it. So the variable name is called rotate. Then the next thing is to put them at an absolute position. Remember, the clock is relative. So they are relative to the clock. Then position from the left should be 50%. This is going to put them at the middle. So position from the top is also 50%. This places them at the middle. 50% from the top, 50% from the left. Or let's make it bottom. So from the left and from the bottom, anyhow you want to do yours. Now let's transform. Let's transform them again. And we're going to use translate for this. So we are translating them to where? Minus 50%. Then, after translating, we rotate. Then let's calculate. My calculator is not spelled correctly. C-A-L-C, good. So let's calculate the variable of rotate, okay, times 1 degree. So now we are using the rotate variable we created here, this one. So it's going for every 50%, it's going to calculate for 1 degree, and it's going to translate them. Okay. Now the next thing we need to do here is Now let's target each hand individually. So the first hand is the hour hand. So the hour hand, let's give it a width of 20 pixel, height of let's say 180 pixel. You can make yours as tall as you want. Then background, I want it to have a style, so I'm going to use linear gradient. And to the top, so to the top of the tip of the hour hand, so to top. And what do we want? I just want blue and purple. So let's reload and see what we have. I hope you've been doing that already so you can see the magic you're creating. So if I reload or refresh this page, you can see my minute hand, my hour hand is showing, and you can see the gradients. Okay, you can see the gradient from the bottom to the tip. So I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to drop it here. Okay, so this is going to be for the minute hand. We can make the minute hand to be longer, so let's say 280 pixel. Then for the seconds hand, I think that one should be tinier, but should be long too. So for second hand, we can make this, I'll make this 300 or 320. That could be very long. Let's see. So you can see I have the 3 hands on my screen right now. So let's change them. I want this to be tiny. So this should be 10 pixel. That's the second hand. So let's see. I did not save. Good. Always save. Don't be like me. Good. That's tinier now. Good, good, good. So the next thing is we need to move these hands to be at the center dot. So to do that, we are going to, where should that be? Okay, yes. So we should target everything here from the minute, hour hand, and second hand. So where we created the 3 classes, where we have the 3 classes, let's bring them to the origin. So we're going to use transform origin. So this is going to bring them to their starting points, and that should be at the bottom. And I also want the hands, because if you look at the hands right now, they look very sharp, right? Very, very sharp. So I don't want them to be sharp. So I'm going to make this border radius, and I'm going to say 30 pixel to the top right, okay, then top left 30 pixel, then 0 at the other corners. So let's save this and see what we have. Did I save? Yes, I did save. Okay, so I think my hands are not coming to the center yet, so let's fix that. It should be from here. So translate minus 50%, then rotate. That looks wrong. Okay. So I can see the problem. I wrote absolutes instead of absolute. So this is supposed to be absolutes. ABS. Okay. So let's go back and let's refresh. I probably did not save again. Please always save. Come on, Precious. Okay, good. So I'm going to close my inspect. So I just saved, and right now we are right here. So the problem I had was I had a wrong spelling here, position absolute instead of absolute. So please correct that. So there you have it. We are done with the CSS. We have 97 lines of CSS, okay? And I believe you should have this on your screen right now. This is the clock and we are good to go. The next step now is for us to make the ands work, and that will be in JavaScript. So let's get to JavaScript. So on our script tag, let's ensure that our file is called in. So we are calling it from the script.js. So make sure you have this at the bottom and you've created the script.js file in your folder. After you've done that, let's go to JavaScript. So the first thing we want to do is we want to ensure that we have all the files. We want to target these items by their ID, hour hand, minute hand, and second hand, okay? So to do that in JavaScript, we're going to create a constant for the first one. I will call it second hand is equal to document dot get element by ID. And what is that ID for second hand? It's called second hand. Look at it. The ID is second hand, okay? Second dash hand. So that's what I have here, second dash hand. So I'm assigning it to a variable called second hand. So I'm going to duplicate this 3 times, and I want to do the same thing for the minute hand, and the same thing for the hour hand. So now we've targeted the 3 hands. These are the 3 hands. We've targeted them. The next step is to make the clock work. And how do we get that to work? Let's create a function. And I'll call this function clock tick. So this is what is going to make our clock to tick. That is to make the hands move. And the first thing we have to do is let's create a constant called date. And we have to use the date method in JavaScript. So let's create a new date. Okay. Then some new constants. So the first one will be seconds. So to get the particular seconds of the time, okay, we want to get the time, the exact seconds of the time, so that our second hands will move there. So we'll use it and say date dot get seconds. So this is going to get the seconds for us. Then we divide it by 60. So this is going to give you the exact seconds, okay, divided by 60. Then the next one is for us to get the minutes. To get the minutes, we go ahead and add the seconds to the minute, okay, something like this. So seconds plus date dot get minutes. These are methods in JavaScript in the dates for dates. They are methods for dates. Then also we will divide this also by 60. Then the last one is hours. So we want to get our hours. And for hours, we are also going to add the minutes. That is, this minutes we created here. We are going to add it to the hours and so plus dates using the date constant, date dot get. So this is getting the current hours of your computer. So hours is always in 12s, right? So divided by 12 because we have 12 hands. All right. So let's see if it affects our clock yet. I'm not sure it will. It will. So let's go back to code. Now that we have the seconds, the minutes, and the hours, and the next thing we want to do now is let's rotate. So how do we rotate the clock hand? Let's create a new function. So this function is going to be called rotate. Let's call it rotate clock. Always give your function names that are easy to understand or identify so you know what they are doing. So we're going to use JavaScript to change the style property of our hands. Okay, so element.style. But before that, we have to pass the variable, the argument. Okay, So we're going to pass element and rotation, because we're going to collect two parameters, okay? So the element and the parameter. So the first thing is elements dot style. Then we set the property. So you can change the CSS of any tag using JavaScript, okay? And that's what we are doing here. So we want to change rotate. Remember our rotate variable that we created here? This one, we want to change it. We are giving it a value using JavaScript now. So JavaScript is going to give it rotation times 360. Remember, the face of a clock is 360 degree. That is the degree of a circle. Okay, so the rotation times 360. So anything we have here, we will multiply it by 360. Okay, now the next thing we need to do is we need to call this function rotate clock and every time this function clock tick is being called. Okay, so let's start rotate clock and we will do it for the first one, second, and this one, this element here. And what are we passing? We are passing the seconds. Then we do the same thing for the minute hand and the second and the hour hand. So the next one is going to be minutes. And the last one here is going to be hour. So let's save this and see what we have on our clock face. So nothing is working yet, and that is because we've not called this function. So if I call this function called clock tick, let's see what happens. And as you can see, the hands of my clocks have moved. They are showing the correct time on my computer. My computer is currently at 12:46 p.m. and that's what you see here. But we don't want our clock to just be like this, right? We want it to be moving. So for us to move, we have to use something called set interval in JavaScript. So this is going to be calling the function every second, okay? So set interval, and what function are we calling? The clock tick, and we want to be calling it at every seconds, okay? And if we do this, let's see what happens. So I'm going to reload this now, and as you can see, our clock is working. So congratulations guys, if you followed me through in this tutorial and you've been able to create this. This is a massive project for you to understand HTML, CSS and JavaScript, and it's going to help when you have or you're looking for projects to add to your portfolio when you're looking for your next job. So guys, it's been fun doing this with you. I hope to catch you in the next one. Thank you.